Council of 12 Worlds had gathered in the crystalline dome of Kael'Thor's, each delegate cloaked in ceremonial robes of woven starlight. The air buzzed with diplomatic tension, thick with the scent of ozone and sanctimony. At the far end of the chamber stood a human, not cloaked in starlight, not surrounded by aides, no translators, no honor guard, just one woman in a battered flight suit, boots caked in Martian dust, dog tags clinking softly as she walked. Humanity was not invited, hissed the Zyrene Chancellor, his silver-scaled crest flaring with offense. The woman gave a crooked grin. "You're damn right we weren't. You tried to kill us, forgot that part." She stepped forward past a Vraxi diplomat whose 6 eyes blinked in rapid disapproval. The council murmured, protocol shattered like cheap glass. Humans were newcomers, after all, barely 200 years into interstellar travel. They weren't supposed to be here. They sure as hell weren't supposed to win a war, but they had. And Commander Elia Thorne wasn't here to grovel. She slapped a small, charred device on the council table. A scorched Vraxian insignia blinked faintly on its surface. "Recovered this on Halcyon Prime. Last words of your Black Ops team before we turn them into smears on titanium bulkheads." One of the Drelak lords chittered nervously. "This violates the armistice." Elia turned slowly. "You mean the armistice your people violated first, or the part where you unleashed an antimatter weapon in a civilian dome and blamed it on pirates?" She let the silence stretch, then added, voice low and dangerous, "We're done playing nice." The air grew cold. Even the ambient AI dimmed the lights in a show of instinctual fear. "You thought Earth would beg for mercy. You thought a species born in war, forged through famine, genocide. Ice ages and nukes would roll over because your ships were shinier. Your mistake." She leaned in, eyes burning with a fury no genetically engineered diplomat could fake. "We don't want your throne, we don't need your approval, we want you to understand one thing." She paused, let it land. "Humanity fights with rocks if it has to, but we win with rage." From orbit, above the moon of Kael'Thor's, 20 human dreadnoughts uncloaked, weapons hot. Not aimed at the surface, yet. Elia turned her back on the stunned council, heading for the exit. As she passed the door, she said without turning, "Diplomacy ends now. You wanted war." She smiled like a wolf. "Now you get to see what it looks like when we start it." The chamber emptied in silence, not by command but by instinct. Predators had entered the ecosystem. The Council of 12 Worlds had ruled for 10,000 years. They had crushed rebellions, extinguished starfaring empires, and engineered peace through fear. But never had they faced something like humanity. Commander Elia Thorne stood in the diplomatic hangar watching her ship, the Resolute, descend. Its burn-scarred hull was patched and ugly, like all human vessels. But it lived. Each dent, each scar told a story of survival. Fights no other species would have walked away from. Captain Idris Delane stepped out first, helmet under one arm, beard shot with silver and eyes burning with the kind of anger that only comes from watching friends die slowly in vacuum. He nodded once. "How'd it go?" Elia snorted. "They pissed themselves, twice." Delane grunted. "Hope they enjoyed it. High command's given the go." Elia's eyes narrowed. "Full mobilization," he nodded. "Every fleet, every outpost, every orbital yard. Earth is done playing defense." Behind them, the Resolute's loading ramp groaned as it lowered. Marines in black armor stomped out, visors polarized, weapons slung low but ready. The new standard, no more soft landings. The Council was still watching from orbit. Surveillance drones and cloaked scouts had surrounded Kael'Thor's since the moment the humans arrived, and now, one by one, those scouts began to go dark. Far above the diplomatic moon, in the void of neutral space, the human flagship Indomitable emerged from subspace like a waking god. 2 kilometers of armor, 6 spinal-mounted coil cannons, a main reactor that ran hot enough to melt moons. Admiral Reyna Sato stood on the command deck, looking out across the stars. "Patch me through to the fleet," she said. The comms officer tapped a crystal control panel. And across hundreds of ships, frigates, carriers, dreadnoughts, her voice rang clear. "We are no longer prey. Silence. We are not asking for respect. We are not requesting a seat. We are not interested in your treaties or your ancient codes." Across every ship, weapons primed, railguns hummed, drone bays open like hives waking from slumber. "We are humanity." Her voice was quiet now, dangerous. "You tried to erase us. Now we erase the rules." In the citadel below, the council met in emergency session. "Deploy the shield armada," barked the Zyrene Chancellor. "Too late," hissed a Vraxi warseer. "The humans, they are already here. Our networks compromised. Our scouts gone." "They can't fight all of us," cried a Drelak ambassador, claws scraping across his seat. "We number in the trillions." "And yet," rasped a synth minister, emotionless, "our weapons have failed. Their ships run dark. Their AI are decentralized. Their soldiers refuse to surrender. They reprogram our drones to turn on us. This is not a species. This is a plague of survival instinct." A hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber, not one of theirs, a human face, no name, no title, just words. "This is your final warning. Return to your space. Pay restitution or we come for you. No more diplomacy. No more second chances. This is your shatter point." The feed cut. The Zyrene Chancellor stood in stunned silence. Then quietly he said, "What if we surrender? From deep space, the Indomitable turned its nose toward the Council's homeworlds, and Earth marched on. The sky over Caraxes Prime turned to fire. It began with silence. No alarms, no fanfare, just a flicker in the magnetic grid, then darkness. 12 orbital stations winked out in less than a second. Systems scrambled to reboot, too late. From the upper thermosphere, the first wave of drop pods rained down. Black meteors, hundreds of them. Inside each, a human. Caraxes had never known war. The last time blood was spilled on its soil was 12,000 years ago. Its citizens didn't fear anything because the Council had made them forget what fear was, until now. Pod shells exploded open on impact. Human Marines in full exo-armor emerged, weapons glowing with suppressed heat, visors scanning like predatory eyes. There were no shouted commands, no mercy. They hit power relays, military hubs, comms towers. In under 3 minutes, half the planet went dark. Lieutenant Kale Varga kicked open the doors of the Caraxes Planetary Control Center. He wasn't here for prisoners. His squad swept the interior like a tidal wave, stun rounds disabling the few defenders smart enough not to shoot. The ones who resisted got far worse. Kale moved like a machine, calm, precise, efficient. Behind his visor, his pulse never broke rhythm. "Command," he said into the comlink, "package is secure. Back aboard the Resolute." Elia Thorne watched the data pour in. Caraxes Prime neutralized, planetary AI network hijacked, primary spaceports offline, civil defense grid fried, no nukes, no orbital bombardment, just a surgical reminder you are not safe anymore. The Council was in shambles. "He burned our capital in under 20 minutes, shrieked the Vraxi delegate. She corrected the synth minister. The human commander, Elia Thorne, she didn't burn it. Corrected a younger delegate quietly. She left it intact, that's worse. And it was true. Caraxes Prime still stood. No genocide, no planet cracker bombs, no extinction event, just fear, precision, and the knowledge that the humans could flatten them, but chose not to. That kind of restraint wasn't mercy. It was calculated psychological warfare. Meanwhile, deep in Council territory, the research moon of Zeller 3 was under lockdown for weeks. Its scientists had been dissecting a human POW, not a soldier. A civilian engineer pulled from the wreckage of a mining station the Council had obliterated during the early stages of the war. He didn't scream during dissection, didn't cry, just stared until the day the lights went out. The backup generators failed, airlocks disengaged, and from the walls of the facility they came. A Black Ops unit, human, no insignias, no names, no comms chatter. They retrieved the corpse, then they left nothing but fire. The message they carved into the carbonized hull with plasma torches was brief: we don't forget. On Earth, the mood was different, not celebratory, not triumphant, focused. The world had unified in a way no species in the galaxy could comprehend. Old grudges buried, rivalries shelved. Every nation, every faction, all pouring into one purpose: survival through domination. In the command chamber of the ex-Indomitable, Admiral Sato watched the stars. She pointed at the next target on the holomap. Agricultural moons, supply chains, fuel processors, starved their war machine, cut off their options. Someone hesitated. They'll retaliate. Sato's voice was ice. Let them. She turned to the room. We gave them a chance. They showed us what they do to the weak. Now her eyes burned. Time they learn what happens when the weak bite back. Across space, human fleets jumped to new coordinates. The war had begun, not with a bang, but with precision, with rage, and with the unbreakable will of a species that learned long ago how to survive a world that hated them. Now the galaxy would learn. Deep in the Orion Reach, past the collapsed wormhole of Vetrax 9, an unmarked probe floated in the void. It hadn't moved in 11,000 years, until now. A faint pulse shimmered from its core, an ancient frequency long outlawed by the Council. A language predating the 12 worlds, forbidden, erased, locked away in the cultural memory of the galaxy like a nightmare that everyone agreed never to speak of again. But humanity didn't know the rules. Because humanity had never been taught fear of the old things, and now humanity had heard the signal. The Resolute was docked at a derelict alien archive station, the kind no one visited anymore. A tomb of knowledge half lost to entropy, the perfect place for Elia Thorne to dig. Her boots echoed in the empty vaults, walls lined with dusty stasis crystals and long-dead languages. Beside her, Tech Officer Cal Reyes traced the faint signal on his HUD. "I triangulated the origin point," he said. "It matches a pre-collapse relay path, the frequency's older than the Council." Elia studied the faded glyphs etched into the walls, angular, human-adjacent, disturbingly so. Could be precursor tech, Reyes added, or worse. Elia ran her hand across a console. It flickered, warm, alive. "Tell High Command," she said. "We've found something." He hesitated. "You sure you want to wake it?" Looked at him, expression unreadable. No, she pressed the activation rune anyway. Half a galaxy away, Council Spire 0, hidden even from most Council species, detected the anomaly. An alarm long disabled flickered to life. A holographic projection of something not quite a star map ignited in the air. A synth executor, ancient, its shell etched with warning sigils, reached out and touched the map. The name pulsed once. Sol, it froze. "Oh no," it whispered. "They're starting to remember." On Earth, scientists at the black site under Olympus Mons were already decrypting the signal. It wasn't a weapon, it was a message. One line repeated in hundreds of tongues, all eerily familiar, all with roots that should have been impossible for humans to understand, and yet they did. It said you were made for this. Back aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Sato reviewed the report with a quiet, grim expression. So, she said. We weren't the mistake. No, ma'am, the analyst replied. We were the contingency. The war had shifted. No longer was it just vengeance for lost colonies or murdered civilians. Now the question wasn't just why the Council feared humanity, it was who had made sure they would, and why the galaxy had buried the truth so deep that even remembering it triggered ancient defenses. Alaya stood in the archive, the lights now pulsing in rhythm with her own heartbeat. A door opened, beyond it stars moved the wrong way, geometry bent, reality rippled like heat, something waited there, not hostile but watching. She heard the voice in her head, not in English, not in any language, but she understood. We gave them order, we gave you rage, now choose. Alaya blinked, blood pounding in her ears, and whispered, I choose war. The Council was fracturing. Across the 12 worlds, rebellion sparked like wildfire. Vassal species long held in line by fear now questioned their place in the galactic order. And at the center of every uprising, every intercepted transmission was the same word, humanity, the plague species, the flesh inferno, the lost children of the primordial signal. In the Caraxes sector, Admiral Sato stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. Eyes fixed on the hologram of a ruined moon base. The last surviving synth executor, an ancient AI that had once served as a guardian of forbidden knowledge, lay captured, its central processor locked in a quantum cage. She approached the cell alone. The synth's photonic eyes flickered as she entered. You shouldn't have survived, it said in a voice like rusted metal grinding over memory. Sato folded her arms, and yet, you were meant to burn bright, brief, disposable. You adapted, you remembered. She stepped forward. No, you remembered, that's why you hunted us, why the Council glassed our colonies, not because we were violent, but because we were built to outlast your control. The synth went still, then quietly they created two branches, one to rule, one to rebel. You were the blade, they lost control, so we buried you. Sato leaned in, well, surprised. Then she pressed the kill switch. The synth died with no scream, just a pulse. A data burst, a final message sent into the black. In the void between systems something stirred, old, vast, watching. Its tendrils touched subspace like fingers through water. It felt the signal. The flare of human minds waking up, the rage, the will. It had not forgotten. It had waited, and now it would return not to stop them, but to reclaim them. Back on Earth, in a hidden vault beneath Antarctica, the decrypted relic from Alaya's archive began to hum. Not electronically, not mechanically, psychically. Alaya stared at it, her team surrounding her, every one of them feeling the pressure in the air like a storm about to break. The object hovered, began to unfold. It wasn't a device, it was a key. A map blazed to life above it, lines etched in fire across the stars, not of planets, but of gene lines, species, and humanity's lineage ran straight through the center. Holy shit, Reyes whispered. We weren't just engineered. We were the final iteration. Alaya nodded slowly. They made us as a last weapon. But against who? The vault lights dimmed. From the center of the hologram a shape emerged, angular, wrong. It bent thought around it. Alaya's voice was a whisper, the ones who made them. And now they were coming back, not just for the Council, for everyone. Across the fleet the order echoed, prepare for final engagement. But this time it wasn't just war with the Council. It was war with what came before. Sato stepped onto the bridge, her voice iron. Signal every fleet, mobilize all black sites, unleash the protocols we were never meant to open. She turned to Alaya's transmission on the screen. What do we call this? Alaya's reply was simple. The last argument of kings. Sato nodded, then gave the order. Burn the stars if we have to. We end this. The galaxy burned. The war had gone beyond the Council, beyond rebellion, beyond political collapse. Something ancient had woken. The progenitors, the architects of the galaxy's first civilizations, had returned, not as gods, but as harvesters. They came in vessels larger than moons, with engines that sang in frequencies that made lesser species go mad. They bent reality, tunneled through quantum layers like paper, and devoured civilizations whole. And standing against them was humanity, not alone, but first. From the core systems of Earth's unified warfront, Admiral Reina Sato stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, now retrofitted with weapons reverse-engineered from progenitor tech, burning with raw dark energy coils and quantum lances. Status of the Allied fleets, she asked. Her second-in-command responded without hesitation. Drelak battle groups have fallen into formation. The Vraxi Armada pledged support after we saved their core world. The synth remnants have broken from Council control. And they follow us now, ma'am, all of them. Sato looked out into the endless void of stars, no longer alone, no longer fringe. Humanity led the way because no one else could. At the edge of the Endari expanse, the valiant Alaya Thorne's flagship dove through the wreckage of a shattered moon, behind her. The progenitor fleet moved like a storm made of thought and flame. Hard turn to heading 095, she ordered. Open up the Helmuth array. Tech Officer Reyes hesitated. That's unstable. I want unstable. A grin cut across her face like a blade. Time to show them what a feral species can really do. The Valiant surged forward, flanked by Earth-forged warships and defected Council dreadnoughts. Thousands of human-piloted fighters dove like firebirds from hell, trailing antimatter, AI-guided rail spears, and EMP pulse webs. One after another, progenitor ships shuddered. They weren't invincible, they had just never been tested like this. Across the galaxy, humanity led simultaneous strikes. On the forged star of Krelly's 9, human commandos detonated its Starcore containment field, causing the largest artificial nova in galactic history. On the quantum lattice of Giroth Prime, human hackers and synth defectors injected viral logic bombs, crippling progenitor tactical AI across 3 systems. On the council world of Ussar, where the war had begun, civilians, alien and human alike, rose together in defiance, chanting the same ancient defiant word, Terra. And at the heart of it all, in the dimension-folded void of null space, humanity made their final stand. The indomitable, the valiant. And 300 allied ships faced the progenitor world engine, a star-sized construct capable of rewriting planetary atmospheres, splicing time loops, and unraveling DNA at a species-wide level. Admiral Sato opened a secure channel to every ship. "This is where we hold," she said, "not because we expect to survive." She paused, "but because no one else can." Her voice spread across the stars. "To the children of Earth, to the broken, the forgotten, the feral. The enraged, you were never supposed to win, but now you lead." She looked to Elia on the second screen. "Let's show them what it means to earn a galaxy." Elia smirked. "Let's finish our story." The battle that followed would be studied for millennia, a choir of violence. Ships collided, black holes were weaponized, temporal mines shredded timelines. Human marines in void-hardened armor boarded progenitor vessels and fought gravity itself. And in the end, when the world engine cracked, when the final pulse of its core surged toward Earth, Elia Thorne did the unthinkable. She dove into it. With the Valiant at critical mass, fusion reactors redlining, she manually piloted into the heart of the weapon, carrying the last of the progenitor code her team had hacked. She broadcast one final message: "We weren't your mistake, we were your cure." Then the stars went white, silence, then light. From the ruins of the world engine came a burst of new stars. The weapon had not detonated, it had rewritten itself. In its place was a seed, an origin point, a chance to begin again not as rulers or slaves, but equals. Sato, bruised and battle-scarred, stood on the Indomitable's cracked bridge. She saluted the empty void, to the woman who lit the match. And the galaxy remembered, not the progenitors, not the council, but the feral ones. The species that refused to kneel. The species that learned to make war from stone and fire. The species that looked into the abyss and charged it, humanity. Epilogue: 100 years later, a child asked his alien teacher, "Is it true that humans saved the galaxy?" The teacher smiled. "No," they said, "they rebuilt it with fire."